Hello and welcome back to the FSW channel as we're going to take a look at the weird, wet and windy first Grand Prix of the season in Melbourne. Brilliant race, great way to start the season off, very exciting. And let's have a look at how everyone finished and some takeaways and what we can maybe look at for the future from the first race. Masterful Norris and Piastri Payne. Norris was in control from the start of the race. I think he looked really good. Piastri dropped the pace to Verstappen, but we know what Verstappen's like in the starts in the wet. Really controlled it out in front. Piastri was thereabouts, so allowed to go racing, but unfortunately we didn't get that result. And after Piastri's little excursion to the grass, Verstappen was only gaining late on due to the damage that Norris had from his excursion to the grass. So I think easily the best car on the grid. The car and the driver working really well together, and I don't really think that Norris is going to be too worried about Verstappen. If Verstappen couldn't catch him in those conditions, I don't know when he will, until the Red Bull gets some serious upgrades. And they look like they're in tune together. You know, Verstappen and the Red Bull are working really well, but I don't think Norris will be that worried. It's a great weekend. You'd snap your hand off 48 hours ago for this result. I'd be really happy to be ahead of Piastri by so much. And yeah, brilliant weekend from Norris. Top to bottom, best driver, best result. Piastri made good time after passing Verstappen, finished P9. But he made good time after passing Verstappen early on, really put some pressure on Norris. They were trading in and out of DRS. Really unlucky on what happened. Norris went off, slowly came back on. I think Piastri sort of rushed to get back in there ahead of Verstappen, and I think that's what sort of led him to just go skidding off. If he'd just taken his time, let Verstappen go past Pitt, I think he'd have gone back to second on the grid. Really unlucky, but 23 points after one race is a massive gap. When you're trying to, when it could just be a two-car fight and the two cars share the same garage, it could be really difficult, and 23 points is a massive gap at this point in the season. So, he came back, got a couple of points, but really disappointed. But his drive was good, apart from the incident. I don't think he'll be angry, maybe a bit upset with himself, but not too bad of a result for Piastri. Verstappen maximises points and Lawson comes undone. Max finished P2 and was easily the third best driver on the grid today's race. The Red Bull still clearly not on McLaren's level, but he looked really good. Like I said, the car was really in tune with him. I don't know if anyone else could get as much out of the Red Bull as Verstappen is now. So, we said it before about the car being made for him, but it looks pretty much bang on with that statement. It looks really good whatever he does. In the wet weather, he comes alive. But he still couldn't catch them, even with the damage to Norris. But, it's a 1v2 currently for the championship. Lawson's not really there. Leclerc didn't look there today. And it's a bit ominous when damage on Norris towards the end of the race and Verstappen just can't do anything. But hopefully it'll still be an interesting title fight. But I think that won't be good viewing at Red Bull later on when they look back at it, knowing that they had a chance and they still couldn't steal the win from Norris. Looking at Lawson, a bad weekend really comes to an end. He made no progress through the field from very far down in qualifying. And I think he needs a bit of self-belief. It looked poor in practice. It didn't look great in qualifying, really nervous on his final lap. And not that the pressure is coming to him, but I think, all the eyes came back into the sport for the weekend, and I think he could sort of feel that. So, he needs a bit of self-belief. He can, he has shown he's got the pace before. He showed he had good pace last year when him and Tsunoda were toss-up for the seat. I think he just needs to get that back. Fortunate with the crash. These things happen, but I think he needs to pick himself up, dust himself off, and I think he'll just be just fine. Mercedes Wonderland. Russell in P3, and he always looked comfortable in that top four before Piastri went out. Didn't look like he was facing any pressure from behind. Didn't really look like he was putting pressure in front. We saw a few times last year the Mercedes had the exact same scenario, but exactly like last year, Russell was there to pick up the pieces and get a P3. I think Mercedes were really happy with the points. They know they're probably not the strongest. They know that the conditions for Verstappen were ideal, and there's not really a downside to their weekend, to be honest. It was just a quiet race for Russell. He looked good, didn't look amazing, didn't hurt the car, made it through unscathed. Be very happy. But my personal driver of the day is Kimi Antonelli in P4. He fought through to benefit from that safety car. He looked really quick before. Was really the only car on track pushing and trying to make overtakes in the whole race. I think the decision for the penalty, it would have been harsh. Not just in giving the penalty for the incident, but I think taking away from Antonelli and what he did to push for that P4. He was best rookie of the weekend, even with the poor qualifying, but that was due to damage. So he'll be really happy. Mercedes will be really happy. Sort of already improved right with their decision. Brilliant weekend from Antonelli. Awesome Albon and clunky Carlos. It was a great drive from Albon until he was overtaken by Antonelli at the end. Kept it steady, did what he needed to do, made the positions exactly like Albon needed to do. And for Williams, 10 points in one race, and all they had was 17 all last year. So for them, on top of the world, the 12 points would have been nice for P4. But I think they'll take a P5 any race of the season, any scenario. P5 is great news for them. I think last year Aston finished with 94 points and finished 5th. So over 10% of the way there, and only one driver finished the race. And they deserved it, and Williams looked really good in the race. And they're really unlucky that Carlos Sainz had that torque kick, is what they called it. Supposedly they had a problem with the gearbox going through the corner, had a quick burst of power. I think Carlos wasn't even on an upshift, he was lifting and had a torque kick, and that's why he just went. But Albon got the goods on the weekend. Sainz doesn't need to, rack his brain over it. Supposedly they know what the issue was. And Williams just take the positives, look to China, build on this result, and give themselves a pat on the back for what they've done in the first race. And I think Sainz will be just fine this season. There won't be any problems for them. Stroll masterclass and Alonso spin. So the strategy masterclass from Aston Martin to predict the weather, get in there ahead of everyone else, and not crashing always gives opportunities. Stroll is a wet weather driver. If he could be wet every week, he'd be absolutely flying and probably be one of the top 5 drivers in the championship. I don't know what happens when it's wet weather. Comes alive, he never really makes mistakes. And he was there at P6 for Aston. Massive points for them considering they look like easily the 9th best car after testing. Better over this weekend. Really good result for them. I don't know how often they're going to be looking at 10 or more points this year. I think they'll take it and run to the bank with it, but they will be disappointed for Fernando Alonso, who finished P17, but obviously had the DNF in the race. He was P10 before the accident and looked quite steady. He wasn't lucky on the accident. He thinks there was maybe gravel on the track supposedly, but in the midfield fight it all matters. And I know they were pushing them, pushing more and more, but it's one of those where he was the unlucky one, but everyone else benefits from, his demise there. And the car was better than we thought it was. Kept it competitive, but they need both drivers really, Aston, to be there, especially when there's a chance of points. They needed both drivers, and they're really unlucky that they didn't get anything more from it than they did. But like I said, P6, they'll take it to the bank. And where did that come from for Nico Hülkenberg in P7? I mean, I know the rookies were flying left and right, but the Sauber looked like easily the worst car. Absolutely horrendous. Hülkenberg got out-qualified by Bortoleto, but the restart, Hülkenberg kept Gasly behind. He didn't look necessarily fazed by him. The Sauber looked okay. It didn't look terrible. And they're 2 points ahead already of where they were in last season, and their strategy was perfect for Hülkenberg. They got everything right. They did what they needed to do at the right times. And, 2 points better than last season already. I can't see them getting a result like this again this year unless we get the similar conditions again this year. But Sauber not looking completely terrible, which I guess is the biggest compliment we can pay them. Bortoleto, the B driver, as Helmut Marko called him, he got the DNF, officially P16, but a DNF. But he kept Liam Lawson behind. Lawson should have been trying to push through the field, and Bortoletti did a great job keeping him back until the accident. And he did pretty much as well as anyone could ask in that Sauber. And, I think for him, just don't rush it. He was rushing to get back after the safety car, rushing to try and get himself unlapped, and that's where the incident came. But, it's a good sign for the future. But look good. There was a reason McLaren, I think, had him as their driver in the junior programme. They like him. The teams like him. He was really good last year. Sauber have no problems with the performance, I won't think, anyway. Ferrari are left floundering. Not only did Leclerc get a soggy bottom, but also well off the pace of the front runners. Maybe that was what did it, was the extra weight, but poor decisions yet again from Ferrari. It feels like every year, every couple of races, they just make horrific strategy decisions. And I think sometimes, sort of like Sauber did, you take the points and run. You do, even if you want to maybe split it, or if you make the decision, you gotta go with it. Is 4 points for Leclerc going to be a big thing when it comes to the end of the season? Potentially. But, they were right in there amongst, the 10-point sort of range. That's where they need to be. They need to be hitting them high notes to try and keep up with the guys in front. And I get that's why they maybe took the risk, but, I expected more in the race from them anyway. They didn't look super quick. Definitely looked a step behind the Red Bulls. Didn't really look to challenge the Mercedes. It just seems like a Ferrari disaster class yet again. And Hamilton, sort of in P9, I don't think really showed anything different than what he did last year. There's no progress. He went backwards after the final restart. He looked and sounded a bit nervy. The team, I know they're trying to get to that level together where the driver and engineer know what's going on, but they looked and sounded a bit nervy. Looked like they didn't really know what to tell him or not tell him. And I know they've only really had 6 or 7 sessions so far as a team together, but they've had other practice time. Didn't look great, and I'm a bit worried that Hamilton is looking like the exact same driver from last year, and that's not what Ferrari needed. I don't think it's World Championship quality anymore, unfortunately, and I don't know if he'll provide the results that Ferrari need him to this year if they're going to push for a championship. Hope turns to chaos for Alpine. Shoulda, coulda, woulda had points for Pierre Gasly. I mean, he looked okay. Really disappointed at the end. Obviously, lost it into, I think it was turn 1, and just allowed everyone else by him. I think Alpine got to be worried about the gap to Williams already. A lot of people had them as their 5th best car. I personally had them 6th. I think I had Williams being ahead of them. I think on pace this weekend, Williams sort of showed that. I think that Alpine have to be looking to do better. I know Doohan wasn't quite in the mix, but then I say that before Gasly went off, he was in a decent enough position, so there wasn't really anything they did wrong. Just really unfortunate for Gasly, and I think they'll be okay, but I'm not sure if they are quite on Williams' pace after the first weekend. And Doohan, I mean, unfortunate start after an okay qualifying. I mean, not high, but did okay. I think he's just going to have to take it as a learning moment and don't dwell on it and stay positive. There's nothing really more he can do. Just look forward to the future, hope for the best, and, doesn't help with the Colapinto rumours hanging over his head. Hopefully he'll just be able to pick himself up and recover. What on earth was that? Absolutely threw all the hard work from Yuki Tsunoda, who finished P12. It's not Yuki's fault, but the P6 to 8 might not happen again. I think, Sauber made the common decision. Mercedes made the common decision. McLaren made, although they were the first ones to do it, they made the common decision. They all benefited, and, yes, you might be able to take the risk and get higher, but don't take strategy notes from Ferrari. Take the obvious decision, and sometimes it will just if you're from P6 to 8 and then you drop down 4 places because 4 people jump you, you're still in for points. And for Racing Bulls, I don't know how many opportunities they're going to get for points this year. And that's a massive amount of points they just left on the table right there. I think, Tsunoda had a brilliant race. For him, no problems with what he did. Nothing wrong with him. Looks to have the pace that he had from qualifying. I think there's going to be suitors for him next year. I mean, Cadillac, could they become calling if Racing Bulls don't want to keep him? If Lawson doesn't get dropped for him, I think Tsunoda's trying to put himself out there to make a big jump next year. Whether he is, I'm not sure. But Hadjar was a heartbreaking sight in the pit lane. I mean, that was really was sad to see it. And I think there is talent there, but he has been erratic. That's a known thing with him from F2. But I think he'll come back stronger. I don't, sort of like do and don't dwell on it. I think he'll be fine. I don't think it's quite fair to have the cameras on him all the way through, in the paddock. I sometimes just give the guy some space. Let him have his time. He'll talk to the media like he's got to. But I don't think we need to really see everything that's going on in these drivers' lives behind the scenes. Hopeless Haas. They didn't look anywhere all race. They really flattered by safety cars. They kept getting unlapped and relapped and unlapped and relapped. Ocon didn't really show a lot all race. Didn't look great. And where's the pace gone? Where has the pace gone that they showed, where people were putting them as the 7th best car? I know their car looked like it was made of tinfoil in testing, but I didn't think it would fall to pieces after one race. It's just not. I know Berman didn't have the best weekend, but Ocon, you're thinking, can he do something? Can he make up places? And just nothing really happened for them. Well off the pace. And Berman is a weekend figure in P14. Absolute weekend figure. I mean, hopefully they've got some data and some confidence from the weekend. He's got a bit of running under his belt now. He didn't make big mistakes. He didn't do anything terrible. P14 is, I might as well have been last place. But just keep it on track next weekend. Let's see what Berman can do. Just tone it down. Same problem as Hadjar had. A bit erratic last year in F2. Didn't get a lot of points in F2 last year, but we could all see the promise that he had. I think it's just got to keep it calm. Not everything is for a world championship. Not everything is going to be done at 100%. And I think just tone it down. Got the pace there. The Haas does look very worrying. So that are my thoughts on the first weekend of the season. I mean, McLaren absolutely on top of the world. Red Bull, a bit worried about it. The field completely mixed, completely jumbled. And we'll just have to see where it goes from there. Really exciting start. On to China in a week's time and bang in the morning again. So yeah, thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you next time.